Well, I finally went and bought one just because I couldn't stand to wait any longer. Let's talk about why the Samsung S95B is one of the best TVs you can buy in 2022 and whether you should. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and I'm very excited to bring you my review of the Samsung S95B QD OLED TV, a TV around which there has been a great deal of buzz and anticipation, which makes sense because it's the first TV of its kind that you can buy, and naturally, there are a lot of questions about whether this is one of those times when it's smart or safe to buy first-generation tech. I have some thoughts on that, so we're going to dig into what this TV does extremely well, where it could stand some improvement, and most importantly, whether I think you should buy one. Now, I'll go into this a little deeper in a future video, but typically TV manufacturers send me TVs to evaluate, review, and compare. Then I pack them up and send them back so those same units can then be sent out to other reviewers, and the cycle continues. This year has been, well, a little different. And the short version is that the S95B, along with a few other models, just couldn't be sent out anytime soon. And while I would have had a shot at evaluating it in a couple of weeks, I just couldn't wait that long. So I purchased this TV just like you might, and I've spent a considerable amount of time with it. Now I've got opinions. For those who don't already know, this TV is available in 55 and 65 inches only at roughly $2,200 and $3,000 respectively. Although, as I record this, they are both already on sale for less than that. So if you strike at the right time, you can probably save a couple $100. As usual, we have shopping links down in the description so you can get the best price. And while you're down there, drop me a comment so we can talk about this TV. Maybe like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. By the way, I want to say thanks to Lorex for sponsoring this video. More on that in just a moment. All right, let's get into this thing, shall we? Now, as I record this, Samsung has just deployed a firmware update for this TV, which changes the way the Filmmaker Mode picture preset behaves. In simple terms, this TV tracked brighter than it should, according to the brightness instructions it was getting from the content it plays. And it still does. If you choose any of the other picture presets, the TV will boost the brightness a bit. Now, this is something Samsung TVs have done for a long time, and I presume it's because Samsung feels that kind of look is what most people like, and I suspect that's true. However, when it comes to providing an accurate picture, one that aligns with what content creators want a TV to do, this TV was not abiding. That is, until Vincent Teo over at HDTV Test called this issue out, and Samsung replied with a firmware update that makes Filmmaker Mode track brightness accurately. And I think that's great. So now you have an option. You can pick Filmmaker Mode for a more accurate picture, or you can pick another picture preset for one that you might find a little more exciting. Your preference is your business. So if you get this TV, play content you like and switch among the different picture modes and pick what you enjoy the most. For this review, I primarily used Filmmaker Mode as it is right out of the box, measured its performance, and evaluated it as most folks would by just watching the TV uncalibrated, because most folks are not going to get a professional calibration. Then I went ahead and did a very basic calibration of the TV's white balance and measured again, and I'll be publishing those results in my written article at digitaltrends.com. Now, if you wanted to pay for a professional calibration on this TV, just know that you can get the S95B's color accuracy so dialed in, it does not produce any color errors that are perceivable to the human eye. So if you're a stickler for dead-on balls accuracy, that's an industry term, you can get it from this TV. But you don't need to, because right out of the box, this TV is fire. Let me count the ways. First off, it gets brighter than nearly any other OLED TV on the market, and not just pure white brightness, which can tip the meter at nearly 1200 nits in HDR or about 500 nits in SDR, both very impressive numbers, but it's the color brightness that really sets this TV apart. Because the QD OLED technology in this TV doesn't use a white subpixel like most competing OLED TVs, it's able to get much higher pure color brightness than competing OLED TVs. And that, my friends, is what really grabs you when you watch this TV. Just as I experienced with the Sony A95K a few months ago, which by the way is the only competing QD OLED TV coming to market in 2022, and substantially more expensive as well. The color is just so vivid and enjoyable. You don't have to know your nits from your knuckles to see just how gorgeous a TV this is. The reds and yellows especially are unlike anything I've seen in a TV before. And that's not just because of the color brightness. That's also because this is OLED-based emissive technology, and along with all that brightness are pure blacks. I've said this before, the reason why OLED-based TVs have better contrast, even though they don't get as bright as LED LCD TVs, is because they can turn pixels completely off. And that pure black gives you the foundation for eye-popping contrast. So from a brightness, contrast, and color perspective, this TV is one of the best you can buy. Now, let's look at other elements of picture quality. By and large, I was thrilled with this TV's performance, from 4K Blu-rays to 4K streams on Netflix, Disney+, and HBO Max. SDR or HDR, the TV looked terrific. One of the areas, however, that I'd like to see some improvement is in low bit depth content playback. When you stream a YouTube video, for example, that doesn't have as much color information in the stream, the S95B doesn't do as strong a job cleaning up that picture as many competing TVs do. You get a fair amount of banding and noise. And I'm not sure why that is, because that's not a complaint I've had with other premium Samsung TVs in the recent past. Now, this could be a slight annoyance for some folks watching SDR content on cable or satellite. Not because the image looks especially poor on its own merit, but when you jump from a high quality Disney Plus or Netflix stream, or especially from a Blu-ray disc down to cable or satellite content in SDR, the difference in quality is jolting. And that's one of my few picture quality complaints for watching TV and movie content anyway. Otherwise, the S95B produces an enticing, engrossing image for which I think most folks are going to be head over heels. I want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor, Lorex, for sending along its 2K pan-tilt outdoor Wi-Fi security camera. I installed this camera at my home because I was frustrated by having blind spots with my existing security camera system. The 2K pan-tilt outdoor camera eliminates blind spots thanks to its wide field of view paired with its motorized lens, which lets you aim the camera remotely so you can see just about every square inch of your property through the Lorex Home app. Installation is a snap thanks to an included mounting bracket. Just drill a few screws, plug it into power, then connect it to your Wi-Fi, where you can manually control the camera and access your recordings from virtually anywhere. The 2K pan-tilt outdoor camera's 4 megapixel sensor gives you sharp video, twice the resolution of 1080p, plus it has color night vision up to 33 feet for deep detail even in the dark. The system comes with a 32 gigabyte SD card for storage, expandable up to 256 gigs, and to amp up security, the 2K pan-tilt outdoor camera includes motion activated warning lights and a remote triggered siren, plus you can talk to anyone on your property with the built-in mic and speaker. You'll find a link to buy the Lorex 2K pan-tilt outdoor Wi-Fi security camera at an exclusive discount down below. Thanks again to Lorex for sponsoring this video. One of the other picture quality elements I like to hone in on is motion. Now, OLED technology offers nearly instantaneous pixel response time, which inherently comes with some advantages and disadvantages. On the positive side, it isn't prone to smearing or blurring like LCD-based TVs are. On the negative side, that instantaneous pixel response time and lack of natural blurring can cause a sort of stuttering, almost flashing effect, especially when you have slow panning wide shots, primarily in movies, but also seen in some games and TV shows. Now, you can mitigate some of this by turning up some of the motion smoothing features in this TV just a little bit so that effect goes down without going into full-on soap opera effect territory. But I feel like Samsung's motion smoothing isn't executed quite as, well, smoothly as Sony's or LG's. It's not all bad, but again, if we're gonna pick this TV apart as being one of the best you can get, it's worth pointing out the few areas where it could be a little bit better. With that said, at no time was I ever watching this TV and thinking about the motion performance. For the most part, I was just so dazzled by the overall picture quality that I couldn't get over how incredibly good this TV looks. Man, I haven't been this excited about TV watching in a really, really long time. To think this TV could be any better is, well, that's exciting, but I don't feel a need to wait for the next gen version. Not at this point in my evaluation anyway. Now, we really need to talk about gaming on this TV because there's quite a bit to discuss there. But before we do, let's quickly knock out some other important elements. Anti-glare. It's highly effective. This TV mitigates reflections about as effectively as any TV ever has. You're not gonna get much better, if any better. Off-angle viewing. It is superb. If you can see the screen from anywhere, you're getting as good an experience as someone who is sitting dead on in front of the TV. Black uniformity and gray uniformity on this unit, Both are among the best I've seen on an OLED TV and far and away better than most LCD TVs I've tested. Build quality. I know some folks have received TVs that were a little bent, and I've seen bent versions of this TV in person myself. This unit, though, has no problems at all. So while I'd love to give the TV a good grade on overall build quality, knowing that there are problems out there gives me a little bit of pause. I think Samsung can do a little better. User interface. Tizen is snappy and I can live with it, but I'm gonna hook up a Chromecast to this TV and just use that. That's my preference. One thing that bugged me, probably more than it would bother you, is that the path to the picture settings and input selection is way too many clicks in Tizen. I'd like them to be quicker to access, be that through the interface itself or with actual buttons on the remote. Speaking of the remote, with that one complaint aside, I love it. No more replacing batteries since it charges via solar, USB-C, or radio waves. Yeah, radio waves. I love this cool world we live in. Cool remote. Sound quality. Wow, really impressive sound considering how thin this TV is. It's got solid overall balance with more low end than you'd expect, and dialogue clarity is pretty solid as well. I'd still add at least a soundbar, and I'd probably lean toward a Samsung soundbar since Samsung's Q Symphony sound pairs the TV speakers with the soundbar for better clarity and fidelity. But just the TVs on their own are impressive, which is saying something because most TV speakers, frankly, suck. Okay, so far, mostly outrageously positive on this TV. A few little things I'd like to see made better at some point, but no major complaints. With that said, let's finally talk about gaming. As for gaming with next-gen consoles, the S95B offers a lot to like, and then there's a few areas where Samsung really needs to implement some improvements, I think. The good? Well, let's start with 4 full-bandwidth HDMI 2.1 ports. That's a great start. Next, solid variable refresh rate support all the way up to 4K 120 Hz. That's excellent. Samsung's gaming dashboard, also fun to have handy. It allows quick adjustments to some picture quality parameters and provides some nerdy data feedback. Also, as we saw at CES, Samsung has plans for an extensive cloud-based gaming hub in the future, which we can count on this TV to support. Plus, we get very low input lag, right around 10 milliseconds at 60 Hz and 5 milliseconds at 120 Hz. So far, this TV is looking like one of the best TVs for gaming out there, nudging right up against LG's best. But then there's this issue with over-brightening in game mode. See, there's an essential part of picture processing built into any HDR-capable TV called dynamic tone mapping, and most of the time, you want dynamic tone mapping. This is what allows the TV to take content it's displaying and make sure the bright stuff on screen is bright enough, but without getting too bright. Dynamic tone mapping allows you to get a bright, vivid picture with balance. Essentially, it prevents washout, among other things. But sometimes you want to be able to turn dynamic tone mapping off. Sometimes you want your source, like your game console, to do the tone mapping for HDR. That's why both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 have these calibration screens on them. The consoles are trying to ensure that you get to see every detail you're supposed to see and that the picture never looks washed out. Problem is, the consoles are expecting that the TV is not going to mess with its brightness instructions when you do this. And the issue here is that the S95B very much does mess with those console instructions, even when it isn't supposed to. At least for now. I hope this gets fixed down the road with a firmware update. Anyway, here you are on this Xbox Series X HDR calibration screen, and you're expecting it will take just a few clicks to get the logo to disappear so you can meet the clipping point. But instead of it taking a few clicks, it takes a ton of clicks to get there. Way more than it should. But if you understandably do what the screen is telling you to do, you're gonna end up with an image that looks like this. Totally washed out and not anywhere close to what it should look like. Now, I was scratching my head on this. Eventually, I figured out a happy medium where I could alter the Xbox settings just enough to get good peak brightness without washing out the picture and good shadow detail without making the blacks look milky gray. But it was not easy. And I can see a lot of folks just doing what this screen tells them to do and then thinking their games look like hot trash. And the other thing I think might bother some people when gaming is the TV's ABL, or automatic brightness limiter. Now, if you go from a dark place to a bright place in a game, you may notice, especially if you're in that bright place for a while, that the intense brightness of that bright area goes down a little over time. I personally did not find this to be especially jarring, but I hear folks complain about it all the time, so much that I would feel remiss if I didn't bring it up. Look, if you hate ABL, maybe this isn't the TV for you. But as ABL goes, I feel it is less aggressive than some competing OLED-based TVs that we've seen in the past. So, in summary, this TV kicks ass. Not very eloquently stated, I'll grant you, but that's how I feel. Most folks who buy it will be thrilled or tickled, or they'll just be thinking, man, this TV kicks ass. Console gamers? I worry there could be some frustration there, at least for a while. I hope that gets fixed, but I know that I personally wouldn't let that stop me from buying this TV. I think it is especially exciting that this is the most affordable QD OLED TV you can buy in 2022, and I have no doubt that ultimately it's going to be the better QD OLED TV for gaming. As for the concern about buying first-gen technology, I don't see any red flags here. Samsung has done a solid job with its first QD OLED TV. Future versions might be better, but if we're gonna worry about buying first-gen tech, it's because nothing is proven until it's been out for a while. I do, however, have more confidence in this TV than when WRGB OLED first came out, if that means anything to you. So, if 55 or 65 inches of QD OLED is big enough for you, I highly recommend this TV. You can wait for larger or slightly more refined versions if you want, but you know what? I wouldn't. The only remaining question is around how this TV might compare to the Sony A95K or the LG G2 or even LG C2 OLED. And those questions, my friends, will have to be answered in a future video. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. What do you think? Leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and here's 2 other videos I think you might like.